Thank you, Anne, Con and Peter for those very kind words, and Sharon for the beautiful performance. And thank you, I want to acknowledge Sandy for sure, who's been not just a wonderful Lord Mayor for the city, but a really fantastic supporter of trying to bring life back to this place, and therefore supporting us, and we really appreciate it, Sandy. Thank you so much. And your son has also worked here, so we're really deeply connected. It's as Sophie said to start with, it's been an interesting journey. Like any startup, 1 year in, you kind of been up and down. But I tell you what, it's the best analogy I can think of for this place is it's like a child, and it's only 1 year old, and that means it shits its pants. But the potential that it has is incredible. The cuteness in those eyes is incredible. And, we have to collectively nurture this child into, hopefully, adolescence and hopefully into being free. And as Sophie said at the start, we see this as something that we've been lucky enough through, much like Con and Peter have said, through the wonderful world of finance, to have some capital, to be able to give back, and to create something that we hope will endure for generations. But the particular thing that we're excited about is that at some point when it's out of nappies and maybe out of teenagehood, that it can be set free from Sophie and I and Peter and Con and the government, and can actually be a social enterprise that looks after itself, where the profitable parts of this business support the parts of the business that will always cost money to do well. As Sharon said, it costs money to do arts well and execute it well. These screens cost money. The power costs money. But this, what we're standing in now, I promise you in 10 years' time is going to become part of the landscape of the way artistry and performance is experienced. And we are right here at the cutting edge because of some crazy ideas and some wonderful people that we've met who've been able to execute on this dream. And I guarantee you that what we're doing now is going to set the future for a whole bunch of different performers and artists and creatives and technicians that can come together in an environment that is supportive and kind and centred around looking after people, but centred around supporting creativity. And at that moment that we can actually find the corporate and the commercial and the organisational use to balance the arts, and everybody is kind of coming together, and this organisation can stand on its own feet, and we as the parents can go, okay, go on your way. This organisation can run for 100 years, because once we find that formula for social enterprise and for bringing in the corporates and the organisations that want to be contributing for purpose, but also want excellent outcomes, that's the reason that they should come here. And that is, aside from the team and the culture and the amazing tech, and I just want to also acknowledge one of the great corporates that we've worked with, a company, proudly South Australian company called Aerometrics, that has this astonishing technology to capture 3D and spatial pictures. I'm buggering up the words, but anyway, like photos from up high type thing. And anyway, what they do is when they're displayed in this format, they're artworks. I mean, this is an artwork, and it is so beautiful, and this is South Australia. And we can, use this to augment Sharon's fantastic performance or Peter's punk band. Maybe we have a different type of environment for Peter's punk band. Or possibly we start in the cathedral for Peter's punk band and then it catches on fire. All of that is possible in this space because we're talking about dynamic environments where the artists can curate any environment that they can imagine. And we have truly only scratched the surface on what we can achieve in this space. The capacity for this technology to augment dynamically and tell stories in a really meaningful and purposeful way is extraordinary. And that is the future that we're investing in here, in giving it to creatives, working with other corporates, technologists, to really imagine what is it like to be in a collective environment that can take you to any part in the universe. So we've obviously contributed, Sophie and I have obviously contributed a gazillion hours and quite a few gazillion dollars to get Light to this point. But we are super excited about the next 300 points and what this place can incubate. And we think that we know we're putting Adelaide at the forefront, and indeed of Australia, but even the world, on the way in which you use performance and put performance inside these sorts of immersive technologies. And as I say, in 10 years' time, this is going to be ubiquitous. But the creatives that have learnt their trade here on these skill sets will be the people in Adelaide that are leading the world. And, you know, to be part of that incubation is just so extraordinarily exciting. As I mentioned, as a social enterprise, one of Light's core objectives is to be self-funding through the profits generated through Light's hospitality and the events business. We hope that this is going to enable Light to continue to have maximum impact for generations without being subject to the vagaries of government and reliance, government and philanthropy in the future. The COVID restrictions over the last year have made that extremely challenging, and I would insert a swear word, but it's been tough. It's been tough for everybody in the arts. It's been tough for everybody in the hospitality. When you combine arts, hospitality, and new and COVID, that's kind of like a recipe for rocket fuel that's going to give you a really big headache. But we've done it. We're still here. We've had 200 performances in the lab downstairs. We've seen every genre of artist engaging in our space. And we know, as I say, we've only just scratched the surface. I want to just talk about events, because what we've learned, and we've learned a lot in our first year, is that restaurants don't make money. People could have told you that before. Bars make money when you've got shitloads of people. Well, we're working on that. Events do make money. And so this is the critical aspect. And, you know, we've got a little bit of a promo running here of the sorts of events offerings that we have in this space. This is revenue that can support the arts for eternity, provided the corporates get on board and want to have their events here. And the corporates love it, because not only do they get a bespoke world-class event, but they're also getting the ability to say to their team or their clients, we are part of supporting a unique venture that will have a legacy for artists and creativity now and in the future. I think this is where the technical bit, you know how Sharon said we took like 3 minutes before? We did the same thing here. This is just to show how dynamic we can be. We can like put things on the fly. So again, another beautiful picture from Aerometrics, and you know, you just get the sense of a different perspective and beauty. Light really wants to put the hands of these immersive technologies in emerging and established artists and creatives across every genre, and especially those that would not normally have access to this or would not know where to start. These are likely to be key tools for the future of creative expression, and it's critical that these pretty expensive pieces of kit, together with the skills of tech people who can translate an idea into reality on these dynamic digital walls, are made available to creatives now. So the real joy of these spaces, and this goes back to a thematic around punk music and drugs and all those sorts of things, is unlocking our imagination. That's what creativity and arts does. And the storytelling power of this canvas. Now, the hallucinogenic effects of a field of magic mushrooms, like this one, may well be replicated by just sitting here without having to eat the mushroom and potentially die. This is a positive societal attribute. And if you compared this, or if you paired this with, you know, Con and Peter and their punk band playing, or psychedelic hippie band, and you can imagine just how transcendental that experience could be. The Welcome to Country that we saw just after Sharon played from Jack Buckskin, transformed into water droplets. It's a great example of how impactful that storytelling can be when you're combining with visuals that are using Unreal Engine and technology that enables imagination really to run right. That video was part of a project we ran last year called Immersion, and that was seen by over 6,000 people. And again, opening people's eyes to the future. So this is another use case for these immersive spaces. Now, we didn't paint these, but if you look behind you, you'll see a beautiful Marilyn Monroe. And this is where I do the pitch. Apparently, Andy Warhol is, that piece, not Andy Warhol, but the piece is being sold for 135 million. I'll sell you that digital NFT for 10,000. But I think the exploration of art and scale and light and what it can do, and part of this goes on to the Scott Hicks exhibition that you're just about to see, is truly amazing. I mean, Andy Warhol, I didn't know him, obviously, but I reckon he would have loved that. I reckon he would have loved a 5 metre high, image of LED blaring in your eyes of Marilyn Monroe. I'm not sure that Turner would have loved this, but I don't know. I mean, I think so this is a 1 by 1.5 metre canvas in MoMA in New York. And so, again, this exploration of scale and the way you relate to the picture. But what I love about this is that obviously the key part of this piece is the lighting source behind the cathedral. Now, what you can't do inside a gallery, if you went to MoMA and you'd see this, is really have that impact of that lighting source, it's there. So reinterpreting artwork and traditional media through this digital landscape that we're all so familiar with, but we're really familiar with it on these shitty little screens, all these screens at home. At scale, at human scale, it really transforms the way you experience this. Now, obviously, there's existing artworks, and these are public artworks that are available because those institutions in the UK, the Northern Hemisphere, realise the value of reaching out and making their art publicly accessible. But we could have the Tate in here one day. We could go to the Thyssen another day. We could go to the National Gallery in the UK, and actually to experience these artworks at scale and with this lighting quality is really fantastic. And some would say, in respect of Andy Warhol's piece, I reckon probably better than sitting in MoMA and seeing it in a small piece. But it's not for us to curate or dictate whether it's better or worse. The fact is, this is accessible, and you don't have to get that carbon footprint of hopping on a plane to New York. We can just stay in Adelaide with our donors and just come to Light and see what it shows. The exploration of the way that you use these spaces for creative purposes is really critical. And I think just to go on to the exhibition we're going to show you in a second, which is Scott Hicks's performance of re-enlivening of the amazing photography that he has had on this large scale. And we've had a wonderful time with all the team that's been involved, from Margot Hill-Smith to Scott and his team and our team, about imagining what it means to bring some of these old film works to life in a different way. So it's all about how the digital can reimagine and realiven, and we think that has a really genuinely important creative and artistic purpose. So I'm going to show you a little video that we have for once this space is completed. And these are the sorts of use cases that we hope to see in this space, in the downstairs space. So that guy's a TED Talks avatar, but you get the sense of the endless possibilities of the things you can do inside these spaces. And as I say, once you've built the infrastructure, rather than building it up and tearing it down, as they do a lot of concert places, having permanent infrastructure that is efficiently created that can be used for all these purposes is going to be a critical part of the way creatives engage and have experiences. So theatre, for example, we've had down in the lab, but we want to have it up here. You've got endless ability to control the sets and the environments, not just behind the actors and performers, but indeed for the entirety of the audience. This is Shanghai, and before you think you've actually been transformed to Shanghai, can anybody tell me why this is not real? You got it. There are people on the street. I knew someone would get it. So if this was real, this would just be quiet. But nevertheless, that sense of being transported to a place, and for those that have been in Shanghai or other places, you can almost feel like you can almost smell it. Like you can almost smell being there. And it's that sense of realism of transportation. And you give these tools to the artists, and it's quite extraordinary what they are capable of producing. So enough of Shanghai. I just want to thank you all so much for coming, and thank you sincerely from Sophie and I for being part of Light's journey. I'm just really excited about what we're going to achieve over the next 4 or 5 years. Our tech team, our arts team, our hospitality team, we're just getting better and better. And but as Sophie said, and as a constant theme, we were lucky to be able to be in a position to give something to the community that wasn't just a one-off, but something that could be perpetuating and could have a really amazing impact upon society and Adelaide's place within the world cultural landscape. And we're really excited that you guys are coming along the journey, and thank you so much for coming today, and look forward to having a drink with you. By the way, the restaurant tells me there are still some places downstairs. I know a number of you have booked, but if anybody wants to have a quick meal at the counter or at a table, then Aurora does have some spaces. So thank you so much for coming today, and have a great evening.